You wanna know who I am? Folks call me the Bone Man. Ain't my real name, but it's the one that stuck. Some folks play music to remember it, and others play it so they don't forget. But what if the song don't end when the player dies? What if that violin keeps vibrating long after the hands go cold? Tonight on Requiem Radio, we're setting out 4 chairs, but only 3 got bodies in them. The 4th, it's waiting. This here's a story of obsession, strings and something that kept playing. Even after the final note. So sit real still, and child, don't you dare hum along. This is a story called The 4th Chair.
They were young, brilliant, and obsessed with perfection. The Sanguine String Quartet formed in New England in the early 2000s, and they were 4 conservatory standouts who moved into an old Victorian house near the Berkshires to rehearse in isolation. No distractions, no day jobs, no visitors, just music morning to midnight. It was the usual lineup for string quartet: first violin, viola, cello, and a second violinist named Lena March, known for her eerie tone that was thin, sweet, and almost too emotional. One critic called her achingly human. Another critic wrote that her playing sounded like someone remembering a death they never spoke of. Their first season was brilliant and electric. But at the start of their second year, something cracked as Lena mysteriously died. It happened on a cold morning in October. They found Lena in the music room, still seated in her chair, bow in hand and eyes wide and staring straight ahead. Her mouth was slightly open, as if she'd been interrupted mid-sentence. At first they thought she was just focused in concentration, but her body was ice cold and her skin had a strange gray cast under her fingernails. The flesh was bruised as though she'd been gripping something that pulled back. Her hand clutched the bow so tightly it had splintered. When they pried it from her fingers, the horsehair peeled away like spider webs. There was no sign of struggle, just a stillness. And on the music stand in front of her was a hand-marked score of an unfinished quartet by a forgotten romantic composer named Erhard Lusing. He was a man whose music was said to be beautifully unstable, and he was also a man who died raving and blind. In the margin next to the final measure, Lena had written 4 words in blocky, shaking script. Play it again, Lena. After Lena's funeral, they should have disbanded, but they didn't. They said Lena would have wanted the music to continue, so they held auditions to fill her seat, but no one stayed. Many talented performers would come to rehearsal and quit by the second week. One quit after claiming she kept seeing someone standing behind her in the rehearsal mirror. Another ran out after rehearsal, screaming that she could still hear a second violin playing even when she'd stopped. The last one never made it past the first hour. She dropped her instrument mid-scale and backed away from the chair, whispering, "Play it again, Lena. Play it again, Lena." Eventually, the group gave up with the auditions and they played on as a trio. But here's where things get really strange. Every time they recorded a session, a 4th violin could be heard on the tape. It was never very loud, but it was definitely there. It was thin, lyrical, and delicate, like someone just barely joining in. They checked the microphones, tested the room, and re-recorded everything, but nothing changed. Every time they played, the second violin part still came through, and it was always perfectly correct and emotionally precise. And it was always accompanied by the same whispered phrase, barely caught between takes. Play it again, Lena. They stopped recording after that, but they kept playing, just for themselves. They rehearsed in that house day after day with the fourth chair always set out but empty. And when they performed on stage, which was rarely, they always brought out a fourth chair and left it empty too. But still, no matter what, the audience always heard four instruments. One Boston critic said, "It's the craziest thing. They look like a trio but sound like a quartet. They play like they're hiding someone, but she's already joined in. You can hear her and you can feel her right there." That house still stands. Locals say if you pass by after dark, you can hear a full-string quartet drifting from the boarded-up windows. And sometimes if you get close enough to the glass, you'll hear that second violin rising above the others, as if someone is still trying to be heard. And if you're very, very still, you might hear that same voice whisper out, "Play it again, Lena." And each time she does, someone else goes quiet.
You've been listening to Requiem Radio, where music bleeds into the supernatural. And that was a story called The Fourth Chair. Maybe you heard it. That fourth violin creeping in just behind the others. Ain't no sheet music for that part. It just remembers. And if you ever find yourself in a quiet room with an empty chair beside you, and you hear someone whisper, "Play it again, Lena," best you don't. Ain't gonna be no more tonight. Y'all rest easy. And don't let the dark drive you home.